there, YouTube land and also social media lands. Welcome to an all new video. This video we're going to do a movie review of a film that came out back in 2011 and is the start of a new trilogy and reboot of a great franchise. So we're going to get right into that. Before we do that, make sure you hit that subscribe button so you don't miss this video and the other videos I put up. And as always, people, if you enjoy my content here on YouTube, dabble check out my other social media platforms such as X, Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, Threads, Patreon. Pretty much post on those regularly, so definitely give them a whirl. As always, people, let's get right into this. So welcome one and all to an all new video. So like I was saying before, we're going to do a movie review of a film that came out in 2011 and is the start of a reboot series and a new trilogy of a already existing franchise called Rise of the Planet of the Apes. Yeah, Rise of the Planet of the Apes. Yeah. So this came out in 2011, which is now 13 years ago. Holy crap. And, of course, is the first film in the reboot series, introducing the character of Caesar, of course. And basically the start of a whole new kind of take on the Planet of the Apes type of, franchise in the world and stuff like that. And these films definitely get more into a different type of approach than the original ones did. And I mean, pretty much on the same premise, but definitely in a different direction than they decided to with the original series. Now, this film happens to be directed none other by a gentleman that goes by the name of Rupert Wyatt. Yeah! Rupert Wyatt, yeah! Ooh. So Mr. Wyatt directed this film, and this is the only one of the franchise he actually has directed. And he is a very interesting director. I think he had a really great eye for this film. I think he did a really great job with it too as well, and gave us a really great kind of restart and reboot to already a really great established franchise that started back in the late 60s. Now, this whole film, of course, it being so many years later, almost, 40 years later since the last film was created, technology has advanced so much, and I think Wyatt did a great job of bringing that great new technology to this film and giving us a really solid reboot series. Now, if you haven't seen anything else Wyatt has directed, you should definitely check out a film that he did a few years back, starring Mark Wahlberg, called The Gambler. Yeah, The Gambler. Yeah. So The Gambler is an interesting film. It's not the greatest film. It's not the most worst film, but definitely was a very interesting film that had an interesting plot. Definitely great dynamics for Mark Wahlberg playing this, character that's addicted to gambling. But at the same time, it was a very different film than, of course, Rise of the Planet of the Apes. And so it really shows that, Rupert has a really interesting eye for different types of genres, sci-fi compared to like a more drama piece. So it was very interesting to see kind of this film and how different it is from Rise of the Planet of the Apes. And showing how Rupert has a really great eye for different types of genres. Because what he did with, Rise of the Planet of the Apes was so amazing. And what he did with The Gambler, it didn't feel as good or as popular as that. But definitely it's still a very interesting film and definitely worth a watch of a type of film that I think did a great job. And I still think that it had a really interesting take, and it definitely was fun to have watched, and at least have said that I've seen. Because any of the other things Rupert has directed, I actually haven't had the chance to see, but overall, out of all the ones that I have seen, The Gambler is probably the one that he has directed the best out of that series. So definitely an interesting film. So if you haven't seen anything, Rupert Wyatt has directed, definitely check out The Gambler to see what else he has done with his directing capabilities. But overall, I think what he did with Rise of the Planet of the Apes was really fun, really great. I think it was a really well-made film. I actually had just recently rewatched it and forgot how good of a film this was, how well written, how well acted, how well played out, and just the whole concept kind of altering how the Planet of the Apes films have started. I really enjoyed the different approach they took to this film and give us a different type of way it could have happened, especially with the new technology, and I just thought Rupert did a great job of bringing that to life. If you haven't seen anything Rupert Wyatt has directed, definitely check out what he, what he did with Rise of the Planet of the Apes. He did a really phenomenal job. So this movie has a really great cast, a lot of great actors and actresses that, really kicked butt, that just made this film really enjoyable and really amazing. A lot of great performances by everyone involved, and they all worked so well together and given this really dynamic film. We had Tom Felton in it, who played Draco Malfoy in the Harry Potters. We had John Lithgow, who has been in a slew of things over the years, from Raising Cain to Dexter to Third Rock from the Sun and so forth. The Campaign he was in, and then also Frida Pinto, who was a pretty popular actress at the time, who hasn't done much, I feel, in the last recent years. So it was fun to see her again, because I hadn't seen her anything in a very long time. But this movie is just really well casted, and I think everyone really brought a great funness to their characters, and all played them so super amazing. Now, to start us off is none other than kind of one of the main guys themselves, Mr. James Franco. Oh yeah, James Franco, woo, James Franco, yeah. So James Franco at this time, I feel, was becoming super popular because he had just been in the 3 Spider-Man films. And he was really, becoming a rising star. And I loved his character in this film. I loved what he brought to it. I liked how he was very serious in the film. But at the same time, I enjoyed how compassionate and how fun he was. And I really enjoyed what he brought to his character in this film. His whole purpose in the film was trying to cure his father's, Alzheimer's. And I think that James did a great job of, making that seem so realistic. Like this, John Lithgow really was his father, and he was dealing with this situation and trying to create a cure and all this kind of stuff. And I liked what James did with the character. I liked how it evolved through the film, and I liked his relationship with him and Caesar and so forth. And I just thought that overall he did a really great job of giving us a really fantastic performance in the film. Now, if you haven't seen James Franco or anything, you should definitely check him out. A great film he was in 2008, where he plays in a very comedic role, which was really fun. And that, of course, is a film called Pineapple Express. Yeah, Pineapple Express. Yeah, he was absolutely freaking awesome in this film. He was such a great character. His character being this drug dealer, that's Seth Rogen's drug dealer, and just this kind of simpleton type of mind and everything was super hilarious. I really enjoyed, and I just really thought Franco did a great job of pretending to be this kind of brain dead guy that was super hilarious and just worked really well and was just super fun. And I thought that, he did a great job of bringing that character to life and worked really well with everyone in that film. If you haven't seen Pineapple Express for James Franco's performance, definitely check it out. He was really superb in it. But overall, I think he did a great job in Rise of the Planet of the Apes, and I really enjoyed his character, and I thought it was a really great first start to this franchise, and such a great character that is remembered later on in the franchise. If you haven't seen it, highly recommend check out James Franco in Rise of the Planet of the Apes. He was really superb. So that brings me to the next person I'd like to talk about. And that, of course, is the main character himself in this film, Mr. Caesar, who is played beautifully by Mr. Andy Serkis. Oh, yeah! Andy Serkis, woo! Andy Serkis, yeah! Andy Serkis should get an Oscar for how amazing he was as Caesar in all 3 films. He was phenomenal in Rise of the Planet of the Apes. I loved what he brought to the character. I loved how you really thought he was an ape, and at the same time he brought such a great humanity to Caesar, and I loved what he brought to that, and his motion capture was so amazing done, and just how he really worked and made it look like he really was an ape, and let's just say a chimpanzee. And I just think that he did a great job of bringing Caesar to life and just being so amazing and awesome. And I just think he did such a great job that, I think that the performance was such an Oscar-worthy performance. It just was so freaking good. And he just made you fall in love with Caesar because of what he brought to the character, and just was so amazingly done. If you haven't seen Andy Serkis' performance, you should definitely check it out because he was so freaking awesome. But if you haven't seen Andy Serkis in anything and would like to check him out in something else, definitely should check him out in his performance in the great 2005 film King Kong. Yeah, King Kong. Yeah. He was awesome in King Kong. I loved his sailor character. He was so freaking awesome. But at the same time, he also was the motion capture for King Kong himself as well. And he just did a phenomenal job as his sailor character, the cook guy, slash kind of like, I think he was even a medic too as well. And he just was like so awesome. And he looked so cool in his costume and outfit and design and everything. And I just absolutely loved Andy in this film. And I thought he did a great job, with the motion capture and everything. It just worked really well and just was super awesome. If you haven't seen Andy Serkis, I think definitely check him out in King Kong. He was really superb. But overall, I really enjoyed him in, Rise of the Planet of the Apes as Caesar. Like I said, he was just phenomenal and just did a great job and deserves so many accolades for how awesome he was. Like I said, if you have not seen Andy Serkis in Rise of the Planet of the Apes, definitely check it out now. You can watch it on HBO Max. Totally worth the watch. So that brings me to the final actor I'd like to talk about in this film, and that is none other than a great actor, Mr. Brian Cox. Oh yeah, Brian Cox, woo, Brian Cox, yeah! Absolutely love Brian Cox. He's so awesome. From one of the first movies I ever saw him in, I knew I was going to enjoy him in anything I ever saw him in. He was just so super cool. And I always have loved just his characters. He can play so many different types. He could be a real asshole. He could be a really sweet guy that cares about, everything. Is a good guy and all this kind of stuff. And he just is such a great actor. And definitely deserves some more accolades for how awesome an actor he is as well. But in, The Rise of the Planet of the Apes, he plays kind of an interesting character that is kind of bad, but at the same time not really. He's just doing his job. He's just kind of running his, place how it is. And, he at the same time, it's like, he could, be a little nicer to the animals, but at the same time, it's like he's running a business, so he's, kind of an evil guy a little bit too at the same time. But he just was so superb at playing that character and did a great job in bringing it to life and giving us this really a great interpretation that was just super enjoyable and really worked well for the film. Now, if you haven't seen Brian Cox in anything, you should definitely check out a great film that came out a few years back with Cillian Murphy and Rachel McAdams called Red Eye. Yeah! Red Eye! Yeah! Oh my god, this is my all-time favorite Brian Cox film. He was so freaking awesome in this film. Absolutely love him as Rachel McAdams' dad. He was so good. He was so awesome. And this is one of the first films I really fell in love with his acting and thought that he was just such a great actor and really showed different types of emotions throughout this film. And I just really enjoyed his characterization in it, and he just worked really well in the film. If you haven't seen Brian Cox, definitely check him out in Red Eye. He was really phenomenal. But overall, I really enjoyed Brian Cox in Rise of the Planet of the Apes, and I thought that he was a great addition to the film and really worked well for the film and just was super enjoyable. If you haven't seen Brian Cox in anything recently, definitely check him out in Rise of the Planet of the Apes. He was superb. So what is Rise of the Planet of the Apes about? Basically, the premise of the film is we see basically the human race trying to come up with a solution to Alzheimer's. While in doing that and testing it on their chimpanzee subjects, one of them ends up giving birth to a superior intellectual type of ape or chimpanzee. And basically it shows the rise of these other apes becoming more smarter and starting to try to take over the world and take their place in society, while the humans are dealing with a new virus that emerges that starts to kill them off slowly but surely. And basically it's about that rise of the planets becoming, of these apes becoming more and more the dominant species on Earth. It's a really phenomenal film. I love what they did with it. I love how they altered and changed it. From the original series, I liked what they did with it. I like how they used actual apes. you know, bringing them into the picture instead of having people in costumes. I like how they CGI'd them and all that kind of stuff. And it just was a really superb film that really still stands up, you know, over 13 years later and just looks super superior and amazing of a film. And I just thought, you know, Rupert Wyatt did such a great job with this film. And overall made a really satisfying, amazing start to a new franchise. If you haven't seen Rise of the Planet of the Apes, highly recommend check it out. Great film, really enjoyable, and very well done. So that's it for this. So that's it for this movie review, guys. As always, thank you for watching. Thank you for liking. Also, thank you for being a subscriber or for subscribing. You guys are rocking it. Just a huge shout out to all my followers, new and old. You guys are rocking it. As always, people, if you've been here before or haven't before, don't forget to check out the older new videos you might not seen mine yet. As always, people, check out my awesome Patreon page where you can help a guy out, help support the channel by checking out all my extra accoutrement you don't get here on my YouTube channel. So definitely check that out too. As always, people, catch you in the next one.